And welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my co-host as always, Tina. How you doing, Tina?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
Oh, not too shabby. And now that I fixed my microphone from last week's fudge up.
And we're both not sick. Well, that's good because it seems like we've been going back and forth. So
yeah,
it's nice to see
at least
you not
better.
coughing and sneezing and.
It's so nice. It's definitely
Right.
it's at the end of its rope. Almost 2 months though. I bet you by the time I'm better, February it'll be the end of February. It'll be almost 2 months because I got sick New Year's Eve. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a beautiful day here in California, or at least it was. It was about 39 degrees this morning.
Yeah, it's a little chilly today.
Yeah.
And it's Super Bowl Sunday.
It is Super Bowl Sunday. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, we are recording on the day of the Super Bowl.
Yes,
not too shabby.
Early, so we don't miss the Super Bowl. Or I don't miss it. I don't know what you're doing, Rob.
I'm not doing anything. I don't have a horse in the race, so I give two shits who wins that game.
Me too. I just like to do it.
I'll probably see it. But I have a few things I'm going to do today before the game starts, so we'll see. Anyway, check out our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all those cool things. Go check them out wherever you hear podcasts. And let's get on to what we're going to talk about since we're still doing February, the Love and Sex Month, because this is, that lovable month where we give each other gifts since we talked about Valentine's Day. I had a friend down the street from me who said, hey, why don't you check out this subject? And I was like, all right, what are you thinking? And she said, polyamory. And I was like, hey, I kind of know what that is because I know some people who have that nonsense in their Twitter profile. So I was like, I will check it out and do some research because I don't really know anything about it. So I shot it your way and you're like, yeah, I know something about that. So let's do it. And I was like, cool. Let me at least look up some statistics because, I don't know anything about it. So let's start with the definition just so we can get that out in the open. Polyamory is the practice of or desire for romantic relationships with more than one partner at the same time with the informed consent of all parties involved. That's does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
So basically, now that sounds like kind of a weird thing. I'm guessing that everyone involved is allowed, or is it just? Do you know what I mean? Like, I really don't even know how to go down that. Is it like a dude that has multiple chicks and none of his chicks cheat, or are they?
I think it depends on the couple or the people that are involved and what they've made their relationship like.
Okay, so there can be rules to said relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's kinda rules in every relationship.
No, there is, but it kind of like swingers, right? Where, some people in the relationship are allowed, I guess, outside and some aren't. I don't know.
Swingers is a different story because swingers, the connotation is that everybody's doing everybody. You know what I mean? That's not, I don't think that's exactly what polyamory is because that could still be an exclusive thing, but it's just opened to more than just two people, like a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. That kind of makes a little more sense. I found a few statistics that we can kind of throw out and I'll kind of give you the high end of both because I think it's more because they have a pie chart and without getting totally crazy. Yeah. Basically the high end of people who say they are is about 6%, give or take.
Okay.
There's used to, and that's about 7%. And then the bigger the pie chart, obviously like 60% of the country or these people polled said they weren't. The high end on gender is men at about 9% and women at about 4.9 that say they are. Let's see.
It makes sense because guys tend to be less monogamous than women.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Totally.
Yeah.
That makes way more sense, actually. Age. So the high end of age is between 26 and 32. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Between 33 and 55 at 8%, followed by 26, 32. And obviously, once you start getting into the late teens and early 20s, it drops to about 6%. Race. Let's see. Looks like the highest is 10%, and that's Black, followed by white/Hispanic at 8.2%, followed by Asian at 6.9%, and us white folk at the bottom at 6.1%. Not too far behind now. Sexual orientation, bisexual, highest amount, 14.5. Followed by homosexual at 8.7 and hetero at 6. And let's see, religion. Which religion? Atheists. What do you know? 8.3%, top of the barrel. Followed in by Hindu at 6.7. Really? Yeah, I never saw that one coming. But so there's a few small statistics about the I guess relationship status is what you would call it. Is that? Mm-hmm. So we talked about it sort of off air about how are we going to go down this road, and it's kind of an interesting thing because we all have opinions on, like, for me personally, this would never, ever, ever, ever work for me. Ever. Only because I'm like I said, I don't share very well. Mm-hmm. I couldn't. This would be a mental disaster for me. I would be. It would be on my mind all the time, so I couldn't even function under those circumstances. So I would have to be more in a traditional relationship, like the 60% that was more involved. What is your take on said relationship status?
My take.
I know I led you into that a little too much.
I'm like, but that's a little vague for me. So back when I was married, I was in a relationship where it wasn't going to be monogamous. I was told from the very get that was not his cup of tea, and that the lifestyle of, I guess, polyamory. I don't know that we really called it that, but it was going to have to be something that was a part of our lives or we wouldn't work out. So there was a lot that went on to bring this all about, but that's the lifestyle that we had for many years. And our rules, I don't know, rules is kind of a weird word, but our thing was there was not to be any other men, but that there would be other women. And again, I knew that from the get-go. It wasn't like it was a surprise. And we did that for quite a while. So I'm very knowledgeable about what what you go through, how it is, what it takes. But you got to give me more questions. Well, what part do you want to know?
Well, here's the thing. Well, yeah, let that makes it a little easier. So you're leading, which is good, because like for one, we have to start with the baseline, right? So you were told quite early in this, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. First, what was the first thought? Let's start there.
I didn't think he was. I mean, come on, somebody tells you that, you're like, yeah, whatever. You don't really think, especially then. We're talking 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't as commonplace as it is now, although it was starting to become more mainstream. But I to be honest with you, I don't really think about what I'm doing. If it's something that I do or whatever. I don't know that I put a lot of thought into it. I didn't think it was going to be real, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know my initial instinct, I was like, yeah, come on, whatever. Who's going to want to do that? So I didn't think that there would be any pressure because I didn't think that that was really a thing.
So how long into this did it happen, or did it be brought up obviously on a very serious level, not like
it was always brought up seriously. It was. My ex did not pull any punches. He was very honest and upfront about the whole thing. But when things started, it wasn't, I can't really tell you, maybe like a year into things, it started to pop off.
Mm-hmm.
It was very slow because I had never had any experiences with any of that, with, sharing a partner or being with another woman. So I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I had no idea how it was going to work, if it was going to work. And I didn't really know if I cared, to be honest with you. When you're in a new relationship, like, you don't have the feelings or emotions that you would have as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't put a lot of thought in it. He wanted to try it. I just kind of was like, okay, whatever. And there wasn't a lot of thought.
So this is while you were dating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
We were living together though. It wasn't like we weren't together.
Right.
We weren't married though at the time.
So
the marriage wouldn't have even happened if he knew that I couldn't be a part of it.
Right.
He would not have married
that
me.
would make sense. I mean, there's no reason to get, knee deep into a marriage and then realize that it's going to get torn apart over something that you knew about.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, see, like, to me, it's a very vague thing, at least how it's defined. So and I don't know, because maybe there, it is different with different people. To me, it seems like maybe it's a relationship and not a marriage per se, all the partners know, but maybe you're having sex with them at different times. It's not always one thing together. So is that how yours was done, or was it always all in one?
No, it wasn't always all in one.
Okay.
No.
So it was him with another person at some point, and then him with you, and then maybe all together.
Mm-hmm. At times. I had to think about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
when there was somebody in the situation that I trusted, things were much different, because when you trust somebody, I didn't need to be a part of everything or in everything. And a lot of it was me testing myself to see if I could even do that, if I could even trust the situation not being right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I did do things to try to walk away or be separate so that I could even see if I could handle it. I was always testing myself because I didn't realize what boundaries I even had or how I was going to do this, or if it was going to, there was so many questions, I should say, that I experienced that I had to try to figure out for myself. So, but for the most part, we were together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's obviously, this is all looking back. So is there, I hate to say regret, because that's kind of a bad word. You were with him for how long?
22 years.
And for how long of your relationship was it like this?
I would say that at the end of our relationship, when it wasn't happening, that was when things started falling apart. But for the most part, it went on throughout most of our relationship. Okay. I couldn't tell you exactly when it didn't, or
no. It's more like a percentage of a lot. So we're thinking a lot.
It was the expectation was that it was supposed to be happening all the time. Like there wasn't supposed to be a time when it wasn't. The thought was that if there was another woman in our relationship, first of all, I would never get lonely because there would always be somebody around, and women definitely are more in tune with women things than men are. So, the idea was that it was to benefit a woman too, because there wouldn't be, with working and taking care of the house and the kid and everything else that has to do with it, you always had somebody there that would be supportive or helpful, in certain ways. So, and that part was true. Like when there was somebody in our relationship that was in it, I would say, or like committed to it, there was a lot of more working together and friends and doing things and being close, and sex was a small part of that. But it was more the being together, having other needs met, because my ex wasn't very affectionate. So if I was sick or if I needed something, there was somebody there but it wasn't him. And it kind of like, for me, I felt like it took the human part away from him too, that he didn't have to do that or be, he didn't have to be as much of a husband in the emotional part of things that, that I would have liked, because I was definitely raised Catholic when I was younger, and being Native American, we have totally different values. So the way I was raised was more where, my dad did a lot for my mom. And I would say that in my relationship, I did the most for everybody's emotional well-being, and mine was left not being
taken care of,
fulfilled. Yeah. And I just don't think he could do it. I just think that we're different people, and he comes from a different background, and, that wasn't his forte. I'm not saying he was a bad guy or he was mean or anything. He was just more on the colder end of the spectrum as far as affection and attention.
It kind of reminds me of my friend in North Carolina. We talked about it before, that her husband also was an engineer and kind of in the same, that almost identical to what you're kind of saying, that he was kind of colder or aloof and looked at things very differently than, and I hate to say most men, but most men, when, they're just different. Math people are different. Everything's a problem, and they try to solve it a certain direction instead of throwing your emotion into it. So
no emotion. It was all reasonable,
critical thinking
process. Yeah. Critical thinking sort of
critical
thing.
Thinking. Yep.
So for me, having somebody around was, and growing up, we always had people in our house. It wasn't like, it was just the four of us. There was always somebody living there. There was always somebody, taking up space and time and attention, so I'm okay to let people do whatever they're going to do, if they're around. And, like even as kids, like everybody used my parents as their parents. So, you had to learn how to just be okay not being the center of attention all the time. And I'm really good at that. Like I'll let people do whatever the hell they want to do, and I'll just sit back and watch because I'm entertained anyway. Right. So it didn't seem like a far-fetched sort of thing. I mean, the fact that could we even make this happen? I was like, yeah, I don't see that happening, but whatever. But as far as like my ability to share, I didn't know what it was like, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And I often wondered myself, is it because I was a little guarded? I never fully like fell in love with my ex. And I do think I did. So when I question these things, it's just questioning. But I always wondered how I was even able to do that, being that I wasn't, that wasn't anything that I thought I ever wanted to do. But it wasn't as hard. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. But you really have to check your jealousy at the door. You really have to be okay sharing. You have to be able to talk and explain exactly what you're feeling and what you're going through in order to keep things going and working. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. I mean, at the end of our relationship, I was just like, I was tired of trying to make something happen that I didn't necessarily believe in. And I said that. I said, you know, what if I want to try just being me and you? Why can't we do that? Why can't we see what it's like? And that wasn't for him. That wasn't what he wanted. And he said he felt stagnant in a relationship when it was just one-on-one. And ultimately, because I didn't want to make things work as I had tried in the past, it didn't do anything for our relationship. It definitely added to blowing it up. But at the same time, like, really, if you ask some people will say, well, blew what up? Because you never really had a relationship anyway, if you were going out of your marriage. So I struggle with all that, trying to figure out like where it went wrong, what went wrong, how it went wrong. I don't think it was just one thing, but that didn't help for sure.
Right. I don't think it's ever just one thing. Ever.
Right.
Never, ever. I would say, you know, obviously that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like polygamy where, you know, obviously I think they're very similar with the exception of you just marry more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's marriage is involved. There's nobody else that got married. We were.
Right. No, well, because there's only a few states that actually allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's a similar thing where, I mean, I couldn't, again, having one person's hard enough. That's another reason I couldn't do it. Being able to, I think it's a very bizarre way to live long term. It's a short term thing that I could see working maybe in your early 20s to maybe your 30s. But once you start getting into like your late 40s and your 50s and your late 50s, you know, that's got to be a hard thing to keep up. For one, sexual desire is going to drop because the people that you're with are going to be, you know, changing physically, both men and women, you know. So, you know, once you get into that, how are you going to fulfill your life when your dick doesn't work anymore? Because that's coming.
It's not always just about sex, though.
No. I'm just saying the sexual part of it, though. Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I understand that you want more people in your life. Before we get to that part of it. So that part is going to be the sex part is only sustainable for a short period of time. You're right. The emotional part of that is something different because you're dealing with different people that may fulfill a different emotional gap for you. I understand that part.
That to me was very bizarre because multiple times over the course of the 22 years with women that were a part of our relationship, they came to me and said that they had fallen for me, not him. Like, and I was like, wait, I didn't even see that coming because I hadn't, you know, this was not something that I always wanted. So I had no idea that was even going to be a thing that went on, and trying to maneuver through that as best as I could without doing any real collateral damage to anybody, because you're very vulnerable in a situation like this, extremely vulnerable. And when it happened like 3, maybe 4 times that the women came to me and said that they were into me and just wanted to be with me. And I had to go, wait a minute. First of all, I'm married. And second of all, that wasn't part of this. And you know, to be honest with you, I didn't fall in love with them in the same way. Like, I didn't leave my ex for that. I didn't try to make something more than what I ever said that it would be. But I was I was surprised by that, because these were women that they were also not polyamorous before. There's none of that went on. So I was kind of surprised by that.
So this was also new to them.
Yeah.
Wow. So did your ex, has he been doing this forever? I'm assuming.
I would imagine so. Yeah. He did it before me, I'm sure.
Right.
But he was in another relationship where he was just with her, but he said that it failed. It failed dramatically because of that and other things that weren't happening.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but yeah, he definitely said that he would never go back to being with just one woman after that.
Yeah, I can see the emotional part. I can see being fulfilled mentally by more than one person. I mean, look, that's what generally happens when people say you have like a work husband or a work wife, or someone at your work is filling that emotional gap. Maybe, and that sometimes does turn into something it shouldn't turn into. And then there's the times where they're literally just your friend. And that's it. And they fill that space and everyone goes home to their real partners and uses that knowledge to, try to fix theirs or change or make their relationship
really
better.
Doesn't work. In my experience, when you go from, if you're in like a threesome sort of a situation, and you would go home to whatever person that you're with, I don't imagine that would work at all, because you realize that the reason that you're doing what you're doing is because it's not working already. And then, so there's that part. And then, that things are so different. The relationships are so different, and there's so many different layers. I didn't realize getting into this, like how much when somebody starts with this, you think, okay, you're just going to have sex with a couple people. Not a big deal, right? It's not. That's what you're doing. Sounds like it could be fun. Let's give it a shot. What the hell? That's so not just what happens. It's such a little part of a lot of other things. And it does make you question what your sexuality is, where you're at with things, what you do feel. For me, I had to turn a lot of my emotion down in order to do what we were doing. I couldn't love as deeply because I was afraid of getting hurt or being replaced. And the funny thing, he said, you'll never be replaced, because who wants to be replaced? If you're doing something, you're always going to be a part of it, because why would, if I'm into having more than one woman, why would I get rid of anybody? I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, because you'd need that in order to go further.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't feel, I don't know. I didn't get that special feeling that I got whatever I wanted. Okay. So when this stuff was going on, anything that we asked for, we got. Like, he was like, you could have whatever the hell you want. But I've never been one to need things or gifts and stuff. It's never been my thing anyway. So I really didn't utilize that as best as I could. I should have a lot more, considering all the work that took place in order to make everything happen. And I don't know. I just feel like for me, what I needed, I don't know that I was going to ever get the way I needed it from him.
Right. Well, I was just about to say the same thing you were saying. Like, there is something special about having someone that is only for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or they give you that it's a weird thing. Like, like I told you before, I was a second to someone's relationship, which is a whole other story and a whole other thing. But it was hard for me because this person made me feel a certain way that, I mean, super duper, in love. but I always knew deep down inside, I was always number two. And that was a weird thing. But every time I saw her, I did feel special. So it's this very weird feeling to go down. But there is something about being special, that special feeling that you know that one person is everything to you. So that's why another reason I couldn't do that. Mostly and it's hard enough, like being a man, there's no way I'd let another dude in my relationship ever. Never, ever.
That was also his
but I'll tell you this
opinion.
Being close to a relationship where someone was with a woman, that doesn't help the situation either. You know, it's just as mentally draining. So it's not, I'm just a one person. So it wouldn't matter. Like you could bring 10 women in and I could bang them all, but it's not going to, there's also always going to be, what is she thinking? So is she into that more than me? What's going to happen? So to me, it's a mental drain, whether you bring a guy into your relationship or you bring multiple women. To me personally, I couldn't do it because of how I think mentally. It would drain me and I would end up, gone anyway.
That's why I constantly wondered, like, where was my head with things? Because, I was able to successfully do this for quite a while. I was also very undercover. None of my family or my friends, people that are listening to this for the first time, are hearing more than what I've probably ever said to them. Now, I do have my key group that I had to just open up when we were getting divorced and say, this was a big part of the problem for me because I didn't want to do this anymore. And I didn't feel like my needs were being met. And he wasn't happy with the fact that I was pulling away. So it definitely was a big part of our separating. It was because we couldn't successfully make things happen anymore. For me, I was like, wait a minute, I really do like having one man to go home to. And if we argue, we argue. If we get along, we get along. Like I'm good at making relationships work. I do what I need to do to make things happen. Obviously, I did this for all those years, but I got tired of constantly trying to make things happen to keep him happy. Like one of my friends said to me, you didn't need to have any sort of stipulations on a relationship. It's already hard enough. And you guys had major stipulations. Like this was going to be a part of your life. You had to agree to this. And when I thought about it, I was like, again, you don't think of it at the time, but she was absolutely right. There were stipulations on our relationship. This had to happen in order for us to go further in our relationship, in order to get married, in order to do all of it. And I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was doing. And let me just also say, I'm not a victim. I do what I'm going to do, and nobody tells me any different. So I'm not saying anything to feel sorry for me, but I just didn't realize what it was going to involve and what it was going to take, and emotionally what it would take from me in order to make it happen and be healthy. Because that to me has always been important. Like I'll do stupid shit all the time. Like that's just who I am. If it's something I haven't tried, I'll give it a shot just to say I did. But you have to be healthy. You have to have healthy relationships. You have to be able to, you just have to be able to go through the motions and not get caught up in all the thoughts of and negativity and jealousy and possessiveness and stuff. Because first of all, that doesn't do any relationship any good, but it definitely in this sort of situation doesn't. And for a long time, the sex was a lot of fun. It was just, something I had never experienced before. There was a lot going on. I laugh at everything. So, it wasn't like it was bad. What was the bad part was, the trying to keep everything going and make it look normal, because I was very much, this needs to look normal because I live a life that I don't want everybody knowing my shit, which cracks me up that I got this podcast, because I can't even believe I'm talking about this. I really had to be ballsy today. Like, this was not when I woke up this morning, I said to myself, all I want to do is stay in bed. I don't even know how to say what we went through. This is going to be an interesting podcast because I don't even want to talk about it. I kind of feel like I didn't want to talk about it when I was in it. And now I really don't, because I'm back to not wanting to do it anymore. So my opinion on what I want in my life is so different. And I realize that in even opening up about this, I'm going to be judged by anybody I ever get with again. So
I disagree with that. I think that what you're doing is you're pouring your heart out for what was all in all not a bad marriage.
No,
okay.
No. I had a really good marriage.
That's what I'm saying.
We're still really good friends. So
so much that you talked to him about doing this.
Yeah, I did. I went to him and I said, we're thinking about talking about this. What do you think? And he said, I totally think you should do it, and just be honest.
Yeah. It's like, look, again, people are people that, like, I don't understand it. But it's not for me to say that someone doesn't. I mean, I know it's not for me. And look, again, being the second in someone else's relationship that no one knew about me, it was difficult enough. And jealousy still exists within that, even though you might know the other person's not in a happy relationship. There's still jealousy of time, like, and that's one of my love languages, right? Time. I want someone's time. And there is something about that, and not having that, and having to only see somebody for a small amount of time. And
you can't share your whole life with that person because they're only with you for a couple hours. That is really hard.
And being able to go to lunch where your head's on a swivel. It's not the greatest, but again, like I still was fulfilled emotionally, tenfold, like it poureth over. Like, what my mental thing was great because what I was getting from that was awesome. But there was a strain to that it was hard because I knew what was going on in that relationship because we talked a lot. Yeah. So,
but you're not ever going to be able to share Christmas dinner with them. No. You're not going to be able to go, hey, let's go take a ride to the beach because there was somebody else.
Yeah. Or just if telling people about that person, you couldn't. A very small amount of people knew about that. So there's something to it. Same with you. I mean, you wanted something to look normal in something that the societally isn't.
Right. So, especially at the time, because this was not.
Even now, I mean, if we're being totally honest, it's not normal now.
You know what? It's a lot more common, though, than I've ever heard before in my life. And truly, I've always looked for people to make it a little more common for me because this was not common in my world. This was not the way that I thought life was going to be for me. So now, as we've broken up and divorced, I'm hearing about it a lot. And I'm not looking for it anymore. Trust me. I just, if I could go back and just blink my eyes and not remember any of that, I think I would. Yeah. Like there was a lot involved in that. And nobody really thought about what I was going through or even cared to ask.
So do you think that, obviously hindsight's 2020 and look, we've all done things that we wouldn't have, or, and stupid things like, if I could go back and change certain relationships or certain things like wrestling, my body is so fucked up now that I feel it every day. I wish I could go back and say I never did it in a second.
No, you don't. No,
just to feel healthy.
It's so much of who you were. And even when you cut your forehead, and I was like, Rob, you're going to get older and you're going to have like these scars on your face. Do you care? And you're like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't care.
And so I don't think that you would change it. If given the opportunity, you'd still do it.
I mean, probably
and we
not.
all would. I wonder what my life would have been had I not done this.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I wouldn't have the stories. I mean, I have really good stories.
No, that's probably true. But here's the question I was about to ask you, though. With hindsight, is there things or people that it affected that you wish you could change that part? Is there anyone? And again, I hate to say victim. Is there anyone who was wounded from being in that relationship?
I don't think so.
Other than you two, you think everyone walked away in your life that knew about it is okay?
A couple of them went on to have more of the swinger lifestyle. One ended up, she's in a relationship with a woman. No, I don't think, I really do believe that I did everything I could to make sure everybody's heart stayed intact. One of them said that, she wanted to be with me and that I broke her heart. She didn't look like her heart was broken in any way from, because we stayed in contact and I know what she was going through. I guess she did to some degree, but it was never anything that there was no lying. There was no, everything was right up front, talked about. I talk about everything anyway, even doing a podcast, let's just face that. So to me, I don't believe that we hurt anybody. There was none of that. Maybe there was one person that liked me a lot more than I was ever going to like her. And I just couldn't find you when you like somebody, you just like somebody. You can't turn it on, turn it off. Like, nope. And I think she wanted me to like her and I just couldn't.
Right.
Like we were just too different.
Right.
But outside of that, I don't think that we really.
Okay. Well, I think that's a huge positive. That if nothing, no one was wounded from this or took it, and it damaged them. And again, that's on them as well. But at least in your own eyes, you can say that that's good. Looking at that style of relationship now, though, and I mean societally, not just you. What do you think it's something that's sustainable for everyone? And I'm not talking just you. What do you think the relationship as a whole, is it a sustainable thing for a couple? Or do you think that it will drive people apart and then off to a regular relationship long run?
I don't know if people would go back to a regular relationship. I'm hoping for that because I just feel like that's where I'm happiest and that's where I want to be. But I don't know because, it's not an easy situation to do. It's not, you really have to be in check with your emotions and your trust and your feelings towards things. I don't necessarily know that it's long-term sustainable because, relationships aren't long-term anymore. Like people don't go the distance and when you go the distance and you're in a more traditional relationship, that's hard enough. Now, if you add more people to the mix, there's more moving parts. I don't necessarily know. Maybe two people would stay together where like other ones may drop off, come back on. I don't know how that works, but I don't see it being a lifetime commitment sort of a relationship. Did
you ever feel like a second in your own relationship?
No, I'm kind of, in life, I would say that I'm more of an alpha female. I'm not that I want to be in charge or anything. It's just like I'm the one that people pretty much go to or will let lead the way. So I never felt like I was second to anything because I'm just not that person. But did I back up to allow somebody else to be in the forefront? Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's allowing that. Well,
yeah.
My whole thing is like, that's why I think it's not a sustainable thing for a lot of people, because at some point your human nature kicks in and say, I'm not getting enough of this. And in a marriage, it's a whole other thing because you are supposed to be second. But in a relationship, you're the two dogs in the fight are, one's going to be the alpha. And at some point, someone's going to feel second. And maybe that's when new people come in and other people leave. Maybe that's how that works. But I couldn't imagine that myself. I'm just a different cat, and it wouldn't end well. I mean, it wouldn't start.
It didn't end well.
Yeah.
It did not end well.
Yeah.
But I really couldn't tell you how we made it work. I did a lot of soul searching. I tried to make it work the best I could because we did have a good relationship, the two of us. And I'm one, as he is, a person of their word. If we say we're going to do something or try something, we do it. It's I guess we know our limits before we even say yes or no to each other. And so that was just something that we chose. And that was what was expected of me from him, because we do stick to our word. But it was also very hard. I remember in the end going, I just want to know what it's like to walk in the door and there's just one person there for me. And whether I can't stand him or I can, because let's face it, not every day is a good day. I just want to know that person's for me and I'm for them. And when I go to bed at night, I'm going to be hugging him. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement. I'm like, you know me more than more, most. I'm a hopeless romantic. I love that idea. Like, there are going to be days that's shitty, and that's just a fact. And there's days that are going to be overly good to where you're always striving to hit that high again of whatever that day is.
Yeah.
But I definitely love that idea. And again, as you get older, I think you're looking more for that emotional stability as coming home to having that one person that you just got to look in their eye, like looking in their eyes. I love that. I'm an eye person. There's nothing like looking in somebody's eyes and reading them, and then sitting on the couch and cuddling. And then you're right. When that last thing before you go to bed, it's them, so it's an interesting lifestyle to me. I again, couldn't do it. And my friend down the street was like, yeah, because she said the same thing. She goes, I don't understand it. That just, it's and I get it, because it's not the social norm. The social norm is
if you just look at it, that all it is sex, you're not going to get it. When women take care of each other, their needs are met more. That's just a given. Men and women have struggled with that forever. So that part of it was good. Like, that was a solid thing to have somebody that did understand you. Or, we used to team up on him at times too, because like they saw that he wasn't doing what he needed to be. And that was kind of cool too, because when that happened, I was always right, because two of us were right, so if we're both saying it, then he had to deal with that. So that part was good.
Man, two headaches.
Or if I worked late, she would take on my roles of like getting dinner done, or, and he never cooked for me. So that was kind of cool. I was like, wait, somebody made dinner and I don't have to. So there were a lot of elements to that was okay. It wasn't bad. The sex was, when it was off the chain. It was something I hadn't experienced before. So that was all cool. There was a lot of good things about it. I'm not saying that there weren't, but it's very hard to keep. If you think it's hard to keep one person happy, try keeping two people happy,
That's what I mean.
And then throw kids in the mix, that's another realm, because we kept that all silent from the kid, so it was living a life where you constantly have to be in a secret. For me was so hard. The secrets, I'm not good at that. The not telling people what's going on with me is very difficult. Not being honest about what was going on was horrible for me. It was lonely because I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, again, being the second in something where the people I could talk to was easy, she was in something where it was a secret every single day. And it wears people down. And it does. And I, selfishly looking at it, I was like, I'm getting things met. And obviously I think in some degree, so was she. But the mental strain on you must have been, how do I make sure that no one gets this or sees this? And everyone,
my mom, my dad,
everyone though, because, you have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
So,
but my friends, when I decided to get divorced, everybody was like, what happened? Because you guys didn't look like life was that bad at all. Everybody came to me for advice, and I'm pretty good with the advice. I had a lot. I see a lot of things, but it was also because of what I was doing and going through. It was, so it just not being transparent was very hard. That was the hardest part of it. And go ahead.
Did anyone know? Or did they come back to you later and go, I thought things were kind of different, or that was weird then, but they just kind of let it go?
Yeah, the next door neighbor that had heard things.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but she was literally next door.
She was literally right next door.
Yeah.
She ended up finding out, but no, not too many people did, to be honest. I kept it very well hidden. I'm kind of concerned now because family friends that still don't know listen to the podcast, and they're going to know. I have clients that listen to the podcast and they're going to know. And it's not something I talk about at work at all. So I kept it very, very well contained. My mom and dad ended up finding out. That was horrible. Probably about 10 years later. No, maybe 5 years later. And my mom was devastated and cried and couldn't believe it. And how could you ruin your life? And la, 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 la. And my dad swept it under the rug, and we just don't talk about it. So that was hard because I didn't want them to know what I was doing. I guess I was a little bit ashamed of it, of course. A little bit was,
but I think that's societal. It's a societal shame.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, again, most people want to go with the flow of the river because it's easier to live. It's just reality. And again, you can't help who you fall in love with. That's the other part. There's obviously he gave you mental stimulation that made you fall in love. That there's nothing that you can take away from that. That's just fact. So you can't help it. It happens. Once you get to a certain point, yes, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
It's shit or get off the pot. and
it boils down to, I just quit working at it. I just quit making it happen. I quit participating. I just quit. And anytime in any relationship where you just quit, it's not going to sustain a relationship.
No, you're done.
Quit with anything. It just is what it is.
It's equal parts. You have to continue to do 100% or it's not going to function.
Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't do it anymore because my needs weren't met before that even started. So like the relationship wasn't doing as well as it needed to do in order for that to be okay. And the relationship really needs to be strong in order for that to work.
For sure. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think, and again, this is kind of a personal question on the outside looking in. Do you think did you fall out of love? There's the first question. And this is a two-parter. Did you either fall out of love or did you just think maybe things weren't working for quite a while and you craved having that relationship, a normal quote unquote relationship more than being, did you crave that relationship because you were so unhappy and you thought maybe that was just the way to get out? Like because divorce is a very bizarre thing. And there's reasons that we get out is, most people fall out of love.
I don't believe we fell out of love. I believe that love changes. In the beginning, it's more of this passionate sexual connection. But as you grow as a couple, it's your life partner. That's somebody that you share things with. That's somebody you go home to. That's somebody that you could commiserate with if you're unhappy or be with. I do believe that as people that were married, he and I never lost that. Our ability, I think we could go on an amazing race right now and win it because we are that good together. We do communicate that well. So I don't think that we blew that up. Most people, I would say, definitely do, because jealousy will kill things faster than anything. And if you don't think you're going to get jealous in a situation like this, you're sadly mistaken. You will. Trust me, you will. But I do believe that I was going through in my life where I needed to be the center of attention. I really do. Not that kids don't come in between that. Not that jobs don't come in between that. Life does come in between that. But when it's a relationship, I wanted to be right with him, just with one person, and that we cannot do. It was just not something that he wanted to do. And I felt like I wanted that, but I think I always wanted that. I don't think that I never sought this out. That was not my thing. Sure. I did it. I don't know why I did it. I don't know how I did it. I know why I did it. You don't think that when you're younger, you don't think that you're, that you can't do something, and anything that sounds fun, it's like, yeah, sign me up. Let's try it. But I didn't think of all the repercussions and all the work it would take and all of the growth I needed to do in order for that to be happening. So, but yeah, I decided quite a while ago that I really needed to be just one person with one person.
Sure.
And we just couldn't make that work.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy.
Well, and again, both people being unhappy it's a recipe for disaster, Yeah. And again, sometimes you don't realize it. And mostly like in my case with my ex, you go with the flow for so long that you go past we've separated so far apart. We just do what we're doing to do it. Because we have kids and we're doing this and you're doing that. She's a good lady and I wished her well. She was at 40, decided she didn't want what she was in and moved on. She's happy. She's married. She's great. My kid ended up being fine. I think, when you get to a point in a relationship, whatever the kind you're in, when you're finally at the end of it, you look back on it and go, it was probably gone here, 2 years before. And you're like, or like you said, like, maybe you were never in love. I mean, at least that's what I looked at. I think,
I wonder that. I do wonder that to some degree. I don't
anymore. I know. I don't think I was ever, not the kind of love that I think I've felt since. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something different. If you really
love somebody, can you share them? That was always my question. No. So to me, I really wonder if we ever got to that place where we loved each other unconditionally, because there were always conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, maybe we should end it on that. It's, some things are conditionary love probably won't work.
Yeah.
But being in love unconditionally will.
Yeah. I get
that. So, thank you for coming and spilling your beans on this one. 'Cause I know sometimes not that you hold back, but you're definitely a little gun shy sometimes.
All the time.
a lot of the time.
All the time.
I'm not quite as gun shy. I'll say whatever. Look, it's an important thing that you can maybe get a little free therapy through talking things out sometimes. And look, I'm glad that you spoke with him and you could come on and kind of just let things loose. Because the funny thing is this subject came from my side and my friend, which was out of nowhere. She just happened to put it in a text and I was like, oh yeah, that's, she's like, yeah, do this. So, thank her as well. Cause I think that's, a lot of the people, I mean it from the standpoint that a lot of people who are listening to the podcast are giving us ideas out of nowhere. And I think that they're blossoming into things that, people want to hear. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people have said things to me afterwards. Like, oh yeah, I didn't think of it this way, or I didn't think of it that way. And it's just two people who've obviously for a few years have done, relationships for long periods of time. And it's just always kind of interesting. So,
I always get asked if you go back and you have a chance to do it again, would you do it again? And I honestly got to say that I'm one of those people that would probably give it a shot just because I hadn't tried it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it wasn't so horrible that I don't want to do it again. I did it. But if I had the chance to do it again, would I do it again? And the answer is probably yeah, because I'm just like, I really want to get to the end of my life. And if I'm sitting on my deathbed, say, I got all these stories, I could tell you all about them. And maybe that wasn't my brightest idea, but it wouldn't be from lack of trying. Like it was, right. I do things because at the end, I want to say that I lived and I believe it, even in this situation, I've lived a life that not too many people could live. And yeah, I'm okay with that.
No, I did what I did. Look that, but so, regret is regret, but sometimes you have to do the things that you think will make you happy. And whatever that is, if you end up going down a road because you think it was going to make you happy and it doesn't mean that you can't continue to go forward and get back on the right track of whatever life is.
And you know what? It wasn't that I was unhappy either. Like we talked about kind of the downfalls. We didn't talk a lot about like the good parts of it, but there was a lot of good. There was a lot of fun. We had, I have stories that when somebody gets me to open up and really tell the stories, we're laughing our asses off because we have experienced things that most people haven't. So I'm not telling people not to do it. I'm just telling people, know that your chances of crashing and burning are high.
Yeah. The repercussions of doing this kind of relationship are probably not high on the winning part.
Yeah. And if your parents are alive, like really think about that, because having to talk to them when I did was not the highlight of my life.
Yeah. No, I get that as well.
And making them have secrets, because I had the secret, then they had to keep the secret.
Sure.
It was probably really hard. I know my mom didn't completely keep it. And I know that when it came out to family, it came out rather
harshly
different than it was. Yeah. And yeah, it wasn't easy to have to go to the next family reunion knowing that people knew stuff that I didn't want them to know. So there are repercussions, but not all of it was bad. But when it was bad, it was really bad.
Right. No, I'm sure. Like, look, that's part of the gamble of life and relationships. You got to gamble sometimes. You just do.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling myself, but I really should stop and put my money back in my purse and go home sometime.
You know what, though? It's hard when the dice are just sitting there wanting to be rolled.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to roll them. We only live once.
I agree. I agree. I think that people should make a lot more mistakes than they do. Like, that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we love. And that's just a part of life. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I may not want to do it again, but apologizing, you didn't hear that out of my mouth.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, you really don't know until you try it. Right.
I didn't know anything.
Yeah, but I mean, that's in any kind of relationship. You don't know unless you look, some people like to stick their toes in the water first, and some people like to jump in and see how cold it is. You just got to, it all matters who you are and what kind you do. But at the end of the day, if you fail, it's okay. Keep moving.
Yeah.
There's more things out there for you.
Put it this way. I didn't lose my friendship with my ex. My mom's gone, but my dad's still very proud of me. I didn't lose any of that. I was a little embarrassed. Quite a bit, but outside of that, you can live with it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right, Miss. Well, that was an hour. Thanks for your hour.
And I'm really glad I didn't even have to get anything super personal. So.
No, because I think it was more of just, we were talking about the style of relationship without having to, I think it's more of people just need to understand that it's a different lifestyle, and it's for some people and not for others. Mm-hmm. And if that's something that comes up in your life and you're don't want to go down that road, don't go down it. And if you want to go down that road, go down it. I understand both sides of that. I'm just not a share. I want one woman, and I want to, throw everything I can at her and give her that experience. So
I get that.
All right, darling. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Any last words before we head out of here?
Think before you act.
God, that's for everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, make sure to check out those cool social media places like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Hear us on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can hear podcasts. And just so you know, this is an opinion show, so don't get it twisted. Keep coming back and listening. We're going to have more love, sex, all kinds of fun stuff. Tina, until next week, I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
You too.